Alright everyone, CBC decided to remove Donald Trump's cameo from Home Alone 2 for Christmas, and I was thinking, what could possibly be the purpose of this other than to spite Trump or to Stalinize, essentially? It's only a minor cameo. Trump's on screen for, 10 seconds out of the movie? It's not exactly a starring role. There's really no point whatsoever to removing it other than removing Trump explicitly. You then simply have to ask yourself why the CBC would be involved with doing so. It's Stalinization, essentially. What happened is they were afraid people would be offended. Oh my God, there's Orange Drumfler up on screen, and he's not being political at the time. Oh my God, people might get the wrong idea, like that Donald Trump was seen as relatively family-friendly back then. He wasn't seen. Later on with The Apprentice and all that other stuff, he sort of gets more edgy and casts himself as like an M-rated sort of character on TV. But back then, he made some comedy cameos. There were others that he did too. I can't remember what shows, but I mean, a lot of them would have liked to have had him on. They did the same thing with anyone who was rich and famous back then. Cameo roles in sitcoms and shit like that, main movies. You know, you'd have someone who appears for 5 seconds in the background. They just want to be, they want their name to be in the credits. Oh, hi, Steven Spielberg. Yeah, I want to put 10 million into your new movie project. I think it'll be great. Can I have a cameo role? Yeah, just I'll walk around in the crowd for 5 seconds and then smirk at the camera or something. People do this. I fail to see how this could have anything to do with Trump's politics, though. Because it's not a political role. He's just being Donald Trump for, again, 5 to 10 seconds and in Home Alone 2, in a comedy movie. Literally no reason to remove it. But we've seen this more and more, which is that we've seen a Stalinization creeping into our culture, that his censorship has gotten to the point where it's no longer even like, if Trump says something that's considered offensive, CBC would say, well, we're not going to air this because it's offensive by our standards. It goes beyond that. Here's something that is completely inoffensive in a family-friendly, like G-rated movie. There's no legitimate political or other gripe to be had with the actual content. The only gripe is with the person. That is that the person is seen, and they've been doing this to content creators too. Let's face it. Oh my God, this person who's been banned off of mainline tech for saying the N-word 6 months ago, you interviewed them 3 years ago, how offensive, oh, how terrible that you talked to this person. A lot of it's retroactive. Not one of these people that thinks Trump is a bad person had any problem with him at the time that he made the Home Alone cameo. You can fucking guarantee that. If they knew who he was, they knew him as this kind of chucklehead, womanizing businessman who did a lot of cameo roles in comedy flicks. That's what they knew him as at the time. He wasn't Trump of The Apprentice yet. He wasn't, I don't think he was wrestling Trump at that point. That comes later. He wasn't stern Trump. He was family-friendly Trump at the time. Still getting up to it with women and things like that, but, kept that a little bit more on the DL at the time, I suppose, than more recently with Stormy Daniels and the Yeti pube story. The mushroom head penis story, actually. The greatest thing of modern politics. But no. This is Stalinization. The idea that you have to systemically remove all mention of a person, their image, what they've said, every work that they've done, because you took offense at some of the things that they did, I think is itself deeply offensive, deeply anti-civilization, anti-Western, anti-freedom, anti-patriotism, whatever you'd want to call it. And here's the CBC saying this completely innocuous 5 seconds of the film has to be cut because it might remind people of the fact that Donald Trump exists. Well, fuck him. Who gives a fucking shit? If it would be different, if he were like playing a dictator in the movie briefly and saying crazy shit, maybe that would be one thing. Your snowflake audience would be deeply offended and they'd have maybe at least in their corrupted minds a reason for that. You're suggesting that people will start having seizures and foaming at the mouth and be like cutting themselves over the fact that they saw Trump in Home Alone. Everyone knows he did a cameo in the movie. If they really have that big a problem with it, they probably turned it off. And yet this is considered some sort of a great victory. That's the other thing that was funny, is seeing people pretending like this is some sort of moral victory. No, it's not. This is exactly what Stalinism did. This has nothing to do with you conducting any form of victory. By the way, again, you're talking about a mainline corporate production being put on TV, sort of TV movie night with the kids, by a corporation for money-making purposes, for profit purposes. there's no moral to be had there. There's nothing moral, there's nothing tangibly moral about the entire process. This was also, and this is probably why this was done, was specifically to prevent complaints by people. They figured, well, the people who are watching this on CBC, probably they tilt more to the left, probably not fans of Trump. We'll just cut it out of the movie. And then we can grandstand about it potentially afterwards and say, well, we showed Orange Drumpfler. Well, no, what you did was you showed everyone that you were a bunch of opportunistic doofuses with snowflake fans who can't take reality and should shove it up their ass. That's basically what you've shown people. I find it disturbing that we've got this mentality that because a person said something that is in the contemporary sense considered bad or wrong or edgy or offensive by some group of people, that they have to be disappeared. They did this with H.P. Lovecraft. H.P. Lovecraft was a virulent racist in the most literal sense. Like, there's no two ways around what terminology to use for his particular set of beliefs. And he was also an amazing writer, and unsung at the time. Now he's considered to be one of the greats of all time with some of his writings. They got way more popular, long after he died. He's considered a literary hero. He's on the same order as Edgar Allan Poe. And yet they've had awards, like there was some award that had his face on it, and they decided to erase that and said, well, he was a racist. Well, yeah, but by Victorian standards, even though he was a little more virulent than most people, come on, we're talking about some dude from 100 years ago. We're not talking about someone from 2 days ago. I think that it's, deeply disturbing that people want to erase history. And by the way, by fixating on these things, you usually accomplish the opposite anyway. Maybe people just would have been talking about Christmas, but instead, even Christmas became about Donald Trump. Even fucking Home Alone 2. He has a cameo in the movie for a few seconds, and yet he steals the show. More people know he's in it than know the name of the lead actor, Macaulay Culkin. More people know. Trump has become all-encompassingly recognizable in everything he has ever even been loosely associated with. If a film is released, a video game, whatever, and anyone on the staff worked with anyone 2 steps removed from Trump, it becomes a social issue. Oh my God, Bethesda is platforming racism because in the new Fallout New York, which eventually I'm sure they'll make, there's a Trump Towers remains are there, and Trump is a glowing one at that point or something. Which, by the way, they should definitely put, and they should give him orange hair, and he would love it. He wouldn't consider it an insult. They should do that. People would have a big fit about it. Or somebody worked on set design. The dude who holds the bathroom passes on this B-tier fucking production, this 6-figure production. His cousin was once friends with Donald Trump's limo driver briefly in Manhattan. Oh my God, we gotta shut it down. This is deeply offensive. We need to deplatform all these people. I wish that this were hyperbolic too. It sounds hyperbolic on the surface, but it's actually sort of what's happening. This is a short cameo. And the thing is, it shouldn't even be a big issue. It's like, the cameo is not an issue. It's a few seconds of time. Removing it doesn't accomplish anything except to make people talk about fucking Donald Trump on Christmas again. This Christmas, keep in mind that the legacy media will find something wrong with Trump's Christmas celebration or a movie he was in or something that he said. They'll have a 10-page expose on why we need a real war on Christmas just to spite Orange Drumpfler or something. And it gets pretty tiring. Again, at this point, it's not even Trump causing it. These people do it themselves. All he did was plant the seed. They keep watering it, and then they wonder why the plant's overgrown. That's about all. Peace out.